Greetings, this is admirable. Today is January 16th, 2022. This is podcast number 51. The problem is not your ego, it is your delusion. Many people are, instead of fixing their delusions, deciding to spiritually bypass them. They do this by not recognizing their delusions, but instead declaring that it is all ego and that it is only by getting rid of this mysterious thing called, quote, ego, unquote, that they can be happy and at one with the universe. Although their goal is admirable, through this approach of ego dissolution or ego death, they sabotage themselves. They are sabotaging the one tool that can get them to enlightenment. It is not about throwing out this baby with the bathwater, but by getting rid of this dirty, delusional bathwater and replacing it with the nectar of the absolute truth. When you do this, your delusions can be eliminated, leaving behind a beautiful mind unencumbered by the limitations that were holding it back. There is no such thing as ego, only your beautiful mind that is deserving of love. You can free your mind by getting rid of your self-limiting delusions. When you do this, your mind becomes a powerful and useful tool, an important ally in your aspiration of becoming one with the best in the universe. And that concludes the written portion of this podcast. So let's dive into this. First of all, just to clarify, in modern psychology, ego is simply defined as your individual identity. However, in many spiritual circles, the concept of ego has gotten a bad name. This is what many people consider what you need to get rid of, and that you can't become coming from a pure consciousness unless you get rid of this ego. And this is a very flawed understanding of what this is, because actually the problem with people is not their egos. In fact, the mind is a very useful tool. Without your mind, you won't be able to be successful in this modern society. But rather, the problem is delusion. People have a limited understanding of who they are. They identify with their limitations, and consequently they're coming from a very disempowered place. You are awesome. You are more awesome than you think you are, and believing that you are awesome is not arrogance. In fact, it is the ultimate humility to recognize how awesome you are, because when you realize the full extent of your awesomeness, you realize that that core of unlimitedness within you is also in everyone else. That the best in you is the best in everyone. And that is what makes us as humans so special, because we can rise above the savagery of our primal instincts. We can rise above our animal nature. We are not like fish that need to swim in a school of other fish. We do not get our identity from a collective consciousness, but instead, it's only by going into yourself, not into a collective consciousness, not in conversion, not in converting you to some way of thinking, converting you to a way of thinking that is the gateway to collectivism, which in turn is oppressive. Whenever someone wants you to conform to an ideology, that means that you are losing your individuality. You are more than an ideology. And when you go inside of yourself as an individual, that is where you can develop that ultimate connection with the highest truth. And by doing that, you can see how interconnected you are with everyone else. The gateway to interconnectedness is individuality, is recognizing your uniqueness. You've been gifted a body for a reason. And again, the problem is not your ego, it's your delusion. So how do you fix a deluded mind? That's the main problem right now with humanity as a whole. The collective consciousness itself is deluded. People have a limited understanding. Why? Because that's what's been ingrained into you from your childhood. Your parents have the same delusion. Your parents' parents have that same delusion. So you inherit that from your family, from biology, but mostly from society's conditioning of what is expected of you and how others see you. People make this mistake. They fall into this trap of letting others define who you are. Guess what? You are not definable. As soon as you start defining yourself, you've already started to put limitations upon you. And that's how you can get a rigid mind. People talk about karma. What is karma? Karma is a rigid mind. It's developing those habits. The habits become a form of calcification, a hardening of your mind. And that is the rigidity that people identify as ego. But actually, it's the karma particles in your mind, which are the bad habits, which in turn reinforce the limited perceptions of your inner identity. And when you break free of karma, when you break free of those bad habits, then the rigid mind can become fluid and adaptive and empowering. When you have that fluid mind, you can be spontaneous. You can flow in the moment. And even more than that, you can become the flow. And even more than that, you can direct the flow. And that is what mastery is. Mastery is having the power to not only have an impenetrable mind that is firmly immersed in that bliss of absolute truth that gives you the equanimity that you need. That's a prerequisite to true mastery. There's very, very few people on this planet that has attained that level of mastery. And once you get to that place, you are liberated. Why? Because no one else defines you. You get that inner, that definition of who you are from the inside, not from the outside. And that's why you are in the world, but not of the world. The world doesn't define you. You define the world. And when you're coming from the ultimate perspective, you're seeing the best in everyone. That means every person that you meet in the world, you are seeing the best in that person. And that is how inspiration occurs and how you can inspire other people. Because many people can't even see the best in themselves. So when you can see the best in them, guess what? They're awe-stricken. They're coming from a place of profound awe that, hey, here is somebody who sees me for who I am. He or she is reminding me that I am more, reminding me of who I forgot I was. And that's how you can also help others rise up and be more. That is the phoenix. That is the rising from the ashes. That is redemption. That is knowing that you are forgiven and you're granted a new life. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this. So again, it's all about delusion. So how do we fix these delusions? Well, subjective perspective is rooted in subjective truth. To have an objective perspective or an absolute perspective, you need to have ingrained within yourself absolute truths, unconditional, objective, primordial truths that transcend time and space, that define nature and the laws that the gods themselves must reside by. So what are these objective truths? There are many, and that's why we have the ultimate subreddit, which you can find linked at divinity.com. You'll find many objective truths, and that's the purpose of these podcasts, to remind you how awesome you are, because it's easy to forget. Society and the many distractions and the entertainment of this modern age continually attempts to entrap us into a limited idea of who we really are. And you are more than that. Much, much more. Now at this point, you might be saying, well, that's all fine and good, but I just want a job. I just want to survive. I just want to make money. I just want to have a happy life. I just want to find my wife. I just want to find my husband. And guess what? You can have all of those things and more. Because when you ingrain within you these objective truths, guess what? You are polarizing yourself and you are magnetizing yourself to abundance for the fruit of all life. The rewards are endless for those on this path, because this is the path of abundance. When we are on the path of the ultimate, what does that mean? That means the ultimate pleasure. That means there's nothing outside the realm of possibility. You are extracting the essence of excellence in everything. You are a catalyst that attracts this beautiful and endless supply of abundance into your life, of bliss, of love, of empowerment. And when you can come from that place of positivity where nothing can get you down, that in it of itself is the ultimate reward. Can you imagine how you would feel winning the lottery? Let's say you win millions of dollars. You'd be over the moon, right? You'd be so excited. You'd be so happy. The possibilities that could provide you to you and your life and your children and your family. Well, guess what? Imagine if you can have that feeling all the time. Your life becomes a celebration of love, of bliss, of wonder. And having this as your reality is inspiring, not only to you, but the people around you. You become a role model of sorts. You become a superstar. And why do you become a superstar? Because a superstar is already who you are. You can claim that for yourself right now. The only thing holding you back is you. And when you decide to make that step, you have the full force of the most ultimate truth on your side to empower you and to help you make that happen. This is real. It doesn't get any more real than this. Shakespeare talked about life being a stage, and that we are living on that stage. And you can choose to be a bystander or an audience member or work backstage. There's no judgment. You can choose whatever life you want for yourself. Or you can also choose to be a main participant, to be a star. And you have that potentiality within you. The only problem is your delusion. You not believing in it. You not thinking that you are worthy. You focusing on your faults and your weaknesses instead of the piece of you that suffering cannot touch. Yes, people suffer. Yes, you suffer. Yes, you likely have ups and downs in life. But there's a part of you that is undisturbed by all of that. There's a part of you that no amount of suffering can touch. There's a part of you that no one can offend, that no one can get you down. And that's the part of you that I want to see awaken. Because it's real. That's you. If you've been attracted to computer games and movies, and why? What is the appeal with these entertainments? Well, likely it shows you a better life. Maybe it inspires you. You like to feel powerful. Well, guess what? It's just trying to remind you of who you really are. Not the artificial reality, but the real reality. The part of you that's greater than anything external. And that is the ultimate reality. And when you reach that place, and you can reach that place, you just fake it till you make it. Believe that you're unlimited. Believe that you can do this. Believe that it is possible. And that puts you one step closer to achieving this as your continuous reality. I know from where I'm coming from that unlimited bliss is a reality, that love is a reality, and this exists independently from anybody else. In other words, this is something that you can have that's not dependent upon anyone or anything, but just the connection with the highest one living truth that pervades everywhere in the universe. This is Atmaboda signing off. Until tomorrow, you are awesome.